I try to remember to do things that make his life a little easier every day.
I asked, what's your favorite childhood memory? And I think that reveals a lot about who we are deep inside, like, and the things that make us feel at home.
You're this close to becoming a little of a hippie. He's turned into an 80-year-old man who's very into gardening.
Let's see what you got. Whack it.
I probably can't get through this shoot. We'll see.
Oh.
Well, I guess I can.
What if I told you that behind the warm smile, soft southern voice, and picture-perfect renovations, there's a story most fans never truly see? When people think of Erin Napier, they picture cozy living rooms, historic homes brought back to life, and that unmistakable charm that defines hometown. They see comfort, stability, joy, but they rarely see the heartbreak that shaped the woman at the center of it all. Erin Napier became a household name through Hometown on HGTV. Week after week, viewers watched her transform neglected houses into beautiful sanctuaries. She seemed steady, confident, and deeply rooted in her small Mississippi town. Yet long before the cameras arrived, Erin was fighting battles no one outside her family truly understood. Her heartbreak didn't begin with fame. It began with fear. As a young girl growing up in Mississippi, Erin was imaginative and artistic, often retreating into drawing and storytelling. But childhood wasn't entirely carefree. She struggled with feelings of not fitting in, feeling different, sometimes isolated. Small-town life can be warm and loving, but it can also magnify insecurities. She was sensitive, thoughtful, deeply observant, and those qualities, while beautiful, made her vulnerable to self-doubt. Then came a health scare that would quietly alter the trajectory of her life. As a teenager, Erin faced a serious medical crisis. What began as symptoms doctors initially struggled to explain turned into something far more frightening. There were hospital visits, tests, long stretches of uncertainty. For a young girl with big dreams and an even bigger imagination, the idea that her body might fail her was terrifying. At one point, doctors discovered a perforated appendix that had caused complications. It wasn't just a routine surgery. It became a moment where life felt fragile. That kind of experience changes a person. While other teenagers worried about dances or college applications, Erin was confronting mortality in a hospital bed. She later reflected on how that time shaped her understanding of gratitude. When you're forced to slow down that young, when you're confronted with pain that isn't visible to the outside world, you develop a quiet resilience. But resilience doesn't erase fear. It simply teaches you how to live alongside it. Years later, when fans saw her confidently presenting design plans on television, they had no idea how much strength it took to simply stand there and smile. Her love story with Ben Napier became one of the most beloved aspects of their public image. They met in college. She interviewed him for a yearbook assignment. It was simple, innocent, almost cinematic in hindsight. But what many don't realize is that Erin had already endured emotional valleys before their paths crossed. Her earlier health struggles left her cautious, deeply aware of how quickly life can shift. Falling in love meant risking loss again. As their relationship grew, so did their shared dreams. They didn't set out to become television stars. They wanted a meaningful life. They wanted to restore beauty in overlooked places. They wanted to build something lasting in Laurel, Mississippi. But even in those early days of marriage and entrepreneurship, Erin faced anxiety that few saw. Building a business is stressful. Launching a stationery company, pouring your heart into designs, hoping clients will care as much as you do, it's a vulnerable act. Every order felt personal. Every rejection stung. And yet she kept going. Because creating was never optional for her. It was survival. Then, just as life seemed steady, another wave of fear emerged. This time, public. When Hometown debuted, success came quickly. Ratings climbed. Social media exploded. Fans praised her style, her warmth, her authenticity. But praise is a double-edged sword. The higher the visibility, the louder the criticism. Suddenly, strangers felt entitled to dissect her work. Her paint choices, her clothing, her voice, her body. Online comments can be brutal. Some were supportive, yes, but others were sharp, dismissive, even cruel. For someone naturally sensitive, someone who had spent years overcoming self-doubt, the sting cut deep. She has spoken openly about how difficult it was to read harsh words about herself and about the homes she designed for real families. What viewers didn't see was the emotional toll. Behind the camera, there were nights when she questioned whether she was strong enough for this life, whether the platform was worth the pressure, whether the scrutiny would ever feel normal. Fame magnifies everything, including insecurity. And yet she stayed. Part of the reason was her commitment to Laurel. She believed in what they were doing. She believed old houses deserved second chances. She believed small towns mattered. Walking away would have meant abandoning not just a show, but a mission. Still, tragedy isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, lingering. Another deeply painful chapter unfolded when Erin experienced complications surrounding motherhood. Long before their daughters were born, there were uncertainties about whether she would even be able to carry children safely due to her past abdominal complications. That possibility weighed heavily on her heart. For someone who valued family so deeply, the thought of infertility or high-risk pregnancy felt devastating. When she finally did become pregnant, joy was mixed with anxiety. Every appointment carried fear. Every ache triggered old memories of hospital rooms. Pregnancy should be carefree and glowing. For Erin, it was cautious and prayerful. She understood too well how quickly things can change. Motherhood transformed her, but it also intensified her vulnerability. Now fear wasn't just about her own health, it was about her children. Protecting them from public exposure, shielding them from online negativity, guarding their privacy in a world that constantly demands more access. And through it all, the cameras kept rolling. Viewers saw cozy nurseries and sweet family moments. They didn't see the nights she lay awake, worrying about balancing filming schedules with motherhood. They didn't see the tears shed in quiet corners when exhaustion felt overwhelming. They didn't see the internal conflict between ambition and presence. To the outside world, Erin Napier represents warmth, tradition, and steadiness. But the truth is more complex. Her life has been shaped by health scares, anxiety, public criticism, and the constant pressure of living authentically in a curated world. And perhaps that's what makes her story so powerful. Because tragedy didn't break her, it refined her. But this is only part of the story. In the next chapter, we'll explore how fame intensified her struggles, how criticism nearly pushed her to step back from the spotlight, and the deeply personal decisions she and Ben had to make to protect their family and their future. As Hometown grew into one of the defining shows on HGTV, the pressure on Erin Napier quietly intensified. Success is often described as a blessing, and it is, but few talk about the weight that comes with becoming the face of something millions of people feel emotionally invested in. Every episode of Hometown carried expectations. Viewers didn't just want a renovated house. They wanted the feeling Erin gave them: comfort, nostalgia, safety. They wanted consistency. They wanted her to be the same warm, creative presence week after week. And when you're human, when you wake up some mornings exhausted or overwhelmed, carrying that expectation can feel like lifting something far heavier than reclaimed wood. The criticism grew louder as the audience grew larger. Some viewers didn't like certain color palettes. Others accused her designs of being repetitive. There were comments about her weight, comments about her clothing choices, comments dissecting her personality. Social media became both a bridge and a battleground. For someone who built her career on authenticity, reading words that reduced her to trends and aesthetics was deeply painful. Erin eventually spoke about how online cruelty affected not just her, but the homeowners featured on the show. When a design choice was mocked, the family living in that house saw it too. The internet rarely considers the ripple effect of its words. At one point, rumors began circulating that she and Ben might step away from television altogether. Fans speculated they were overwhelmed, burned out, done. The speculation alone added stress. Imagine building something with care for years, only to have strangers confidently narrate your supposed exit before you've even considered it. Behind the scenes, life was demanding more than ever. They weren't just filming one show anymore. The launch of Hometown Takeover meant longer stretches away from Laurel. Instead of restoring one home at a time, they were helping revitalize entire towns. That scale required months of planning, coordination with local governments, business owners, contractors, and network executives. It was no longer a single renovation timeline. It was dozens overlapping at once. And with expansion came physical and emotional strain. Ben's health struggles during this time added another layer of concern. When he underwent shoulder surgery and later sought treatment for chronic ankle pain, Erin wasn't just a co-host. She was a wife, watching her husband navigate pain and recovery while still trying to show up for work. The strong, hands-on craftsman viewers adored was temporarily sidelined, and Erin had to shoulder even more of the visible responsibility. Privately, she worried, not just about his recovery, but about the long-term toll of their lifestyle. Renovation television looks charming on screen, but it is grueling in reality. Early mornings, constant deadlines, emotional investment in each family's story. Add parenting into that equation, and the balancing act becomes almost acrobatic. Motherhood reshaped her priorities in ways fame never could. When their daughters were born, something shifted. The applause, the ratings, the partnerships, they mattered less than bedtime routines and scraped knees. Erin has spoken about wanting her children to have a childhood untouched by the harsh glare of internet culture. That desire led to intentional boundaries. They chose not to overexpose their daughters. They limited what they shared. They kept home base in Laurel instead of relocating to a bigger entertainment hub. But even with boundaries, anxiety lingered. What if the criticism eventually reached her children? What if the pressure stole too much time from them? What if chasing opportunity meant missing the ordinary moments that truly matter? There were also moments when Erin questioned herself creatively. In a world obsessed with trends that change every season, she stayed committed to timeless design. That choice, while consistent with her values, sometimes made her feel out of step with the fast-paced aesthetic culture online. She wasn't interested in viral gimmicks. She wanted longevity. But sticking to your principles can feel isolating when the world moves faster than you do. The expansion of their brand added another dimension of stress. Collaborations, product lines, retail operations, each required oversight. Laurel Mercantile had become a destination for fans. Managing inventory, staff, and customer expectations while filming multiple shows created a constant hum of responsibility. Rest was rare. And then there was the pandemic. Like families everywhere, they faced uncertainty, health concerns, shifting production schedules, and the emotional strain of isolation touched their household too. Public figures are often expected to project steadiness during crisis, but they feel the same fear and confusion as everyone else. Erin carried not only her own anxieties, but those of her children and extended family. What makes her story heartbreaking isn't a single catastrophic event. It's the accumulation. It's the quiet endurance of health fears from youth that never fully disappear. It's the vulnerability of creating art in front of millions. It's the ache of reading words meant to diminish you. It's the constant mental math of balancing ambition with motherhood. It's loving your town so much that you refuse to leave, even when leaving might be easier. There were nights when stepping back from television likely felt tempting. A slower life, fewer opinions, more privacy. But stepping away would also mean walking away from families who trusted them with their homes. From viewers who saw in Erin a reminder that tradition still has value. So she stayed, but not unchanged. Over time, Erin became more vocal about protecting her peace. She limited time online. She spoke honestly about anxiety. She reframed criticism as noise rather than truth. Instead of chasing universal approval, she leaned deeper into her identity. Southern, nostalgic, rooted, imperfect. In interviews, she often returns to the same theme: gratitude. Gratitude for surviving her teenage health crisis. Gratitude for a husband who remains steady beside her. Gratitude for daughters who ground her. Gratitude for a town that supports her beyond television. And perhaps that gratitude is the quiet thread holding everything together. Because while the world sees beautifully staged living rooms and handcrafted tables, the real renovation has been internal. Erin has been constantly rebuilding herself, strengthening boundaries, reinforcing confidence, preserving what matters most. Yet even with resilience, the question lingers: how long can someone carry so much before something has to give? In the final chapter, we'll explore how Erin redefined success on her own terms, the personal sacrifices made to protect her family's future, and why the most powerful part of her story may not be the houses she restores, but the life she's determined to preserve behind closed doors. By the time Hometown had cemented itself as a flagship series on HGTV, something inside Erin Napier had quietly shifted. She no longer measured success by ratings alone. In the early seasons of Hometown, growth felt thrilling. Each renewal was validation. Each new opportunity felt like confirmation that the risk had been worth it. But as the years passed, as new seasons rolled into spin-offs like Hometown Takeover, Erin began redefining what winning actually meant. Winning, she realized, wasn't about expanding into more towns. It was about protecting her own. Fame has a subtle way of stretching people thin. Invitations multiply. Partnerships appear. Expectations quietly rise. There's always another town that needs saving, another project that promises impact, another season that could reach more viewers. But with each yes, something else must be balanced. Time, energy, presence. And that's where Erin's most heartbreaking internal conflict lived. She had spent her entire career preaching the importance of home, preserving it, honoring it, restoring it. But what happens when your own home life begins to feel like it's competing with your public one? There were seasons when filming schedules kept them away from Laurel for months at a time. Entire town revitalizations demanded full immersion. Meetings ran long. Renovations hit unexpected delays. The pace intensified. Meanwhile, her daughters were growing fast. Childhood doesn't pause for production schedules. Erin has spoken about how acutely aware she is of time passing, of how quickly little hands grow bigger, of how fleeting bedtime stories and muddy backyard afternoons truly are. That awareness didn't come from nowhere. It came from her teenage hospital room, from learning young that life is fragile and unpredictable. And that knowledge made her fiercely protective. While the public often pushed for more access, more glimpses into her family, more personal updates, more candid moments, Erin pulled back. She refused to turn her daughters into content. She refused to let childhood become a storyline. That decision wasn't always popular. In an era where oversharing fuels engagement, privacy can look like distance. But for Erin, it was survival. There were also emotional sacrifices that rarely get discussed. Being the emotional anchor on a renovation show means absorbing everyone's stress. Homeowners arrive with dreams, sometimes after years of disappointment. Budgets are tight. Timelines are stressful. When something goes wrong, even if it's no one's fault, tension rises. Erin carries that weight. She wants families to feel seen and heard. When an episode wraps, the audience moves on. She doesn't. She remembers the tears, the stories, the quiet moments before the big reveal. That emotional investment accumulates. Over time, it can be exhausting. Yet perhaps the most painful aspect of her journey has been learning that authenticity doesn't protect you from criticism. Erin built her career on being real. No over-polished persona, no forced drama, just small-town warmth and thoughtful design. But even authenticity gets attacked in a digital age that thrives on controversy. She learned that no matter how kind you are, no matter how intentional your work is, someone will always disagree. For a sensitive, artistic soul, that lesson cuts deep. Still, she chose growth over retreat. Instead of hardening herself completely, she softened selectively. She limited exposure to negativity. She leaned on faith, family, and close friendships. She built stronger internal boundaries. She stopped trying to win over everyone and started focusing on serving the people who genuinely connected with her message. And that message remained simple. Old things are worth saving. Small towns are worth investing in. Family is worth protecting. In recent years, Erin has also grown more open about anxiety, not as weakness, but as reality. She's spoken about the mental load women often carry silently, the pressure to be creative, nurturing, productive, and resilient all at once. By acknowledging those struggles publicly, she gave viewers permission to admit their own. That transparency transformed tragedy into connection. The health scare of her youth taught her gratitude. Public criticism taught her boundaries. Motherhood taught her priority. Fame taught her discernment. And through it all, her marriage remained steady. Her partnership with Ben Napier has been a quiet anchor. They met in college, fell in love before the spotlight, built something before cameras ever arrived. That foundation matters. When the noise grows loud, they return to the same simple truths that shaped their early years in Laurel. They still live there. They still walk the same streets. They still believe in the same mission. Perhaps that's the most powerful part of Erin Napier's story. Not the tragedy itself, but the refusal to let it define her publicly as a victim. Her heartbreak wasn't explosive. It didn't unfold as a single dramatic headline. It was layered, gradual, personal. It lived in hospital rooms, in quiet tears after reading online comments, in anxious pregnancy appointments, in long nights balancing work and motherhood. It lived in the space between who the world thinks she is and who she quietly is at home. But instead of breaking under that weight, she reshaped it. Today, when viewers watch her sketch a design plan or speak softly about preserving history, they're witnessing someone who understands fragility more than most. She restores old houses because she believes nothing and no one should be discarded too quickly. Maybe that belief comes from knowing how close she once came to losing pieces of her own future. The irony is this: the woman known for saving homes has been constantly renovating her own life behind the scenes, rebuilding confidence, reframing success, reinforcing boundaries, restoring balance. And perhaps that's why her story resonates so deeply. Because beneath the cozy kitchens and handcrafted furniture is a woman who knows what it feels like to be scared, to feel fragile, to doubt herself, and to keep going anyway. The heartbreaking tragedy of Erin Napier isn't just about illness or criticism or pressure. It's about carrying all of it and still choosing joy, still choosing to plant roots instead of running from the storm. In a world obsessed with spectacle, her strength has been quiet. And sometimes, quiet strength is the most powerful kind of all. If her story tells us anything, it's this: you can face fear and still build beauty. You can endure criticism and still stay kind. You can carry heartbreak and still come home. And maybe that's the real renovation worth watching.